Coming up, Bret Michaels is nearly killed in a car wreck.
Just lost control of the car. I hit a telephone pole and teeth gone, nose broken, head split wide open.
And he fights to keep a private sex act from public view.
He got the ultimate bitch. What's the... Don't print that.
When Behind the Music continues.
Coming to Behind the Music 2.
Success became a double-edged sword. I'll walk in a public place, and half of them hate you before they ever know you. Don't like what you're about, don't like what Poison stood for, so they automatically hate you. And then there's a section of people that love you just because of who you are. That's really weird. You know, I wasn't used to getting that pull from both sides like that.
7 years after they first hit in 1987, Poison rode the glam rock wave to the top until it bottomed out in the mid-90s. Hype and Hairspray gave way to a radically unglamorous rock movement out of the Pacific Northwest.
Once Nirvana came out, it was kind of the beginning of the end for a lot of the bands.
Flannel shirts was sort of the signal to everybody that this is not that. This is something different. It definitely kind of made everyone that looked the way bands like Poison did look silly all at once.
By 1994, grunge was music's dominant new force, a stripped-down, earnest antidote to the over-the-top pose that Poison had strutted so shamelessly.
Music has totally changed. You know, we're not being played on MTV. I mean, I bitched, I complained, I'm like, what are they, crazy?
It's just like, you know, one minute you're hot, the next you're not.
The writing was on the rock and roll wall, and after years of nonstop playing and partying, Poison was ready for a break in the action.
I think in our situation, it was very fortunate. You couldn't keep doing what we were doing.
We had ourselves a hell of a run. We were also falling apart in every way that you could imagine. I welcomed a change. I couldn't go on right then, you know. None of us could.
Nobody was themselves anymore. Everybody had become a different person almost due to the chemical or alcohol or whatever they were on at the time.
I took a long vacation. God bless Seattle.
For 31-year-old Bobby Dahl, it was time to deal with an alcohol addiction that had reached a critical point.
I physically could not stop drinking. And, you know, I couldn't do it. I couldn't stop drinking.
Bobby had an important new incentive to get clean. His wife was expecting their first child. With the help of Alcoholics Anonymous, Bobby finally beat the bottle.
You know, you got some old men in the program, they tell you it's real simple, 2 words, don't drink.
But for 31-year-old Bret Michaels, the party didn't stop until the night his life almost ended.
I was pretty out of control at that point in my life, and but I was having fun. You know, I thought it was fun. I didn't think it was out of control.
In the late night hours of May 24th, 1994, Bret partied with some friends at a Hollywood bar. And when the place closed at 2:30 a.m., he climbed into his Ferrari and drove off to follow his friends to an after-hours party. As Bret drove, a deadly mix of drugs, alcohol, and low blood sugar combined within him and shut his body down.
It happened so fast, you know, it was just insane.
Bret passed out behind the wheel.
Just lost control of the car. I hit a telephone pole, and it was so fast. It was just bam. And teeth gone, nose broken, head split wide open, face split wide open, you know, everything, broken ribs, broken finger, you know, stitches.
Bret suffered a broken collarbone and nose, a cracked sternum, a fractured jawbone, and 4 of his teeth were knocked out. He was lucky to be alive.
God was just looking out for me, you know. He just said he wasn't ready for me yet.
While on the mend after his brush with death, Bret met Baywatch starlet Pamela Anderson and began a steamy 8-month relationship with the buxom blonde. The two were often in front of the camera, sometimes in their own bedroom. One Halloween night, Bret set up a video camera and TV monitors so they could watch themselves having sex.
It wasn't shot to look good. It wasn't shot for angles. It wasn't shot to be a money shot. You know, there was no big money capper shot. It was more for us to enjoy the way we looked in the moment.
That moment was brief. Brett and Pamela's romance soon ended, and their videotaped sex session was forgotten. Then in 1996, Brett was informed that a copy of the tape was in the hands of the Internet Entertainment Group, the same company that had just made headlines selling a private sex tape made by Pam and her new husband, Motley Crue drummer Tommy Lee.
I flipped out, so I start calling everybody, everybody. I'm like, I'm talking to Ricky Valentine. I'm screaming on the phone at him. I'm screaming at Ricky Rocket. I'm screaming at everybody I can get on the phone. I'm like, did you guys ever get this? Copy it. What happened?
The latest sex tape scandal became a tabloid media event.
I mean, now Howard Stern's reviewing the tape. Hard copy's playing the tape. E.T.'s doing a piece. Extra's doing a piece.
Brett later learned that it was a former security guard who betrayed him and sold the tape to IEG.
It's pretty devastating because they're someone that you trust. He took a tape that he had no right to take, that he had no right to sell, that he had no right to at all, that he didn't even know existed.
Brett rejects IEG's contention that he was looking for money or publicity. He has since copyrighted the tape and won't allow anyone to broadcast it.
If I wanted publicity for a porno tape, right, I'd sell the thing. On my website, I'd say, come to brettmichaels.com. Here it is. I wouldn't give anyone a cut of it, except for me. I'm selling it for $64. Here it is. I'm oinking Pam right here. You can see it right here.
Personally, I think a tape of somebody Pamela Lee is pretty cool. So I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of or anything to be concerned about. He got the ultimate bitch. What's the... Don't print that. That's hardcore.
Well, I think if something's going to come out like that, better her than some chick from South Dakota that's got 2 teeth. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
So far, IEG hasn't broadcast or sold the tape, but they'd like to. To stop them, Brett sued IEG and filed copyright and privacy injunctions.
They always thought that I would sell out. But instead, I thought I was doing the right thing, and sometimes the right thing is just really a long, really irritating battle.
While Brett fought his battle for privacy, ex-band member CeCe DeVille was waging a private battle of his own against his old enemy, cocaine.
The tricky thing is that as you do drugs, the quality of your life goes down to the point where living and dying is almost level. And that's what's scary because it knocks you down like that.
The 34-year-old former guitar hero finally decided to come clean.
There's no great ending to the story. I mean, I just got sick of being sick. I got sick of it, and I just said to myself, that's it, you gotta get better. And I waited long enough that when I said it was time to get better, I meant it. Because you can't half-heartedly get sober.
CeCe retreated to his mother's house where he couldn't get his hands on drugs. He slowly overcame his appetite for cocaine, but once sober, he gained 70 pounds.
I mean, great, I'm not doing drugs anymore, but I gotta lose weight. I got up to 220 pounds. I mean, you cannot believe how heavy I was. I really was huge. And I'm like, oh God, life, this is too tough for me. I just became a parody of daytime TV.
CeCe struggled to lose weight and found that getting thin was even harder than staying sober.
I mean, as crazy as that is, I think it's more acceptable to be a junkie than it is to be overweight.
The fact of the matter is that CeCe's alive. CeCe's alive today to tell about it. Maybe the man upstairs has a grand scheme. I don't know.
Lately, I'm trying to make the most of while I'm here. And I'm scared to die only because I'm scared to not be part of tomorrow.
CeCe survived, but the question remained, would he and Poison be part of tomorrow? Or were they already heavy metal history?